It started with something so small no sane person would have noticed. I changed my Wi-Fi. That was it. Same house, same driveway, same calm lakeside neighborhood tucked just outside of Asheville, North Carolina. The kind of place where retirees sip coffee on porches and HOA newsletters talk more about grass-length compliance than actual community. But apparently to one person, it was a declaration of war. Her name was Karen Whitmore, president of the HOA, self-appointed guardian of neighborhood integrity, a woman who walked like she owned not just the street, but the air above it. And somehow she knew. The morning after I installed my new router, I stepped outside to grab my mail, and there she was, standing across the street, watching. Not casually, not neighborly. Watching. That tight smile stretched across, her face like she had already written, a complaint letter in her head. "You upgraded your network," she called out. Not a question, a statement. I paused. Yeah, needed better speed for work. Her lips pressed tighter. That could interfere with community signal harmony. I blinked. Signal harmony? Yes, she said, pulling out a folder. Unauthorized network changes can disrupt other residents' devices. It's actually mentioned in subsection 14C of the HOA guidelines. I almost laughed. Almost. Karen, I said calmly, it's my house. My internet. She tilted her head. That's where you're mistaken. And just like that, I knew this wasn't about Wi-Fi. This was about control. Section 2, the complaints begin. Within 48 hours, the letter started. First one, unauthorized signal emissions. Second, potential interference with community devices. Third, my favorite, digital disturbance affecting resident well-being. I wish I was joking. Each one came with escalating warnings. Fines, threats, legal language, bolded like she was preparing for a courtroom. Battle over, internet speeds. I ignored them. Because normal people don't call the police over Wi-Fi. Karen was not normal. 3 days later, I was in my living room, halfway through a Zoom meeting, when I heard it, knocking. Hard, sharp, official. I muted my mic and opened the door. 2 police officers stood there. Behind them, Karen, arms crossed. Satisfied? Sir, one officer said. We received a 911 call about possible illegal signal interference and cyber disruption activity. I just stared. You're kidding. Karen stepped forward. He's been running unauthorized network equipment, she said. It's affecting multiple homes. I felt unsafe. Unsafe because of Wi-Fi. The officer looked at me, clearly trying not to sigh. By the 4th day, it stopped being ridiculous and started becoming a problem. Not because Karen was right, but because she refused to stop. The next letter didn't come alone. There were 3 of them, all stamped, all signed, all increasingly aggressive. Unauthorized signal emissions. Digital interference complaint, multiple residents affected. Final notice before escalation. Final notice. I stood there in my kitchen, flipping through them slowly, feeling something shift inside me. This wasn't about rules anymore. This was pressure. Calculated, relentless, personal. And the craziest part? There were complaints listed from neighbors. People claiming their devices were slowing down, disconnecting, even malfunctioning because of my network. I frowned. That didn't make sense at all. Modern routers don't just randomly sabotage nearby devices. That's not how any of this works. And even if there was interference, it wouldn't target specific homes like that, unless those complaints weren't real. Or worse, they were being influenced. I tossed the papers onto the counter and grabbed my phone. Time to get answers. My first stop was my next-door neighbor, Tom. Retired. Friendly. The kind of guy who waves even if you don't wave first. If anyone had a complaint, it would be him. I knocked. He opened the door with a smile. Hey, everything all right? Quick question, I said. Have you had any issues with your internet lately? He blinked. Nope, same as always. Why? I held up one of the letters. They're saying multiple residents complained about my Wi-Fi interfering. Tom looked at the paper, then back at me and laughed. Interfering? With what, my toaster? Exactly. He shook his head. I didn't file anything, and I haven't heard anyone else mention it either. That confirmed it. Something wasn't right. Next, I checked with 2 more neighbors. Same answer. No complaints. No issues. No idea what the HOA was talking about. By the time I got back home, the irritation had turned into something sharper, because now it was clear. Karen was manufacturing this, building a case out of thin air. And for what? That question kept echoing in my head as I stepped back into my office. I sat down, staring at my monitors. If she was pushing this hard, there had to be a reason. And deep down, I already knew where to look. I pulled up my network dashboard again. The anomaly from last night was still there. Same pattern, same encrypted signal. Still hidden, still close. But now that I was paying attention, I noticed something new. It was active at specific times, spiking in bursts, almost like it was routing something. Transferring data, a lot of data. I leaned closer. That's not normal. This wasn't just someone streaming movies or gaming. The moment the officer stepped inside, the tone shifted. Not tense, not aggressive. Just careful, measured. Like they already suspected this call wasn't what it sounded like. Nice place, the first officer said, glancing around as he stepped into my living room. Appreciate it, I replied calmly. Home office is this way. Karen followed closely behind them, heels clicking with quiet impatience. She looked around like she was already preparing her victory speech. Like at any second the officers would turn to me and say, "That's it. You're done." But they didn't. Because the second we entered my office, the narrative started to crack. 2 monitors, clean desk, router sitting quietly with soft blinking lights. No mess, no chaos, no illegal setup, just a professional workspace. The second officer stepped closer to the desk. Mind explaining your setup? He asked. Not at all, I said. I work in cybersecurity. Remote contracts mostly. Network monitoring, threat detection, that kind of thing. Karen let out a short, sharp laugh. Convenient, she muttered. That's exactly what someone hiding something would say. The first officer didn't even look at her. Ma'am, please let him speak. That was the first moment her confidence slipped. Just slightly. But I saw it. I turned back to the screen, moving the mouse slightly to bring up my dashboard. You're looking at a standard secured network, I explained. Firewall active, encrypted channels, monitored traffic. Everything here is legal and compliant. The officer nodded slowly, scanning the data. Looks normal so far. Karen stepped forward quickly. No, you need to check deeper, she insisted. He's interfering with signals. I can feel it. My devices have been acting strange for days. The room went quiet for a second, because even the officers couldn't ignore how that sounded. I can feel it. The first officer cleared his throat slightly. Ma'am, we'll handle the inspection. Karen pressed her lips together, stepping back, but her eyes stayed locked on me. Watching, waiting, hoping, and that's when I saw it again. That same anomaly, bottom corner of my second monitor, blinking, subtle. But there, the signal, stronger now, more active, like it knew something was happening. The officer noticed my focus shift. What is it? He asked. I hesitated for half a second. Because this was the moment everything could change. Then I turned the screen toward them. There's something you should probably see, I said. Karen scoffed immediately. Oh, please, this is just another distraction. But she stopped talking. The second the officer leaned in. On the screen, a network map, multiple nodes, connections branching out like veins, most of them normal, homes, devices, standard traffic. But one was different. Highlighted, encrypted. The sirens didn't rush in. They crept closer. Slow, steady, inevitable. You could feel it in the air before you could hear it clearly. The shift. The kind that turns a quiet neighborhood into a stage, where something is about to go very, very wrong. Karen heard it too. Of course she did. Her head turned toward the window, eyes wide now, no longer sharp and judgmental, but searching, calculating, panicking. That's not for me, she said quickly. This is ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous. No one responded, because no one believed that anymore. Not even her. The first officer lowered his radio, his tone now completely different from when he first knocked on my door. Professional. Focused, ma'am, he said calmly. We're going to need you to remain available while we sort this out. Karen blinked rapidly. Remain available? I didn't do anything. I'm the one who called you. Yes, he said. And we're following up on what we've discovered as a result. That sentence hit her harder than anything else, because now it was official. This wasn't her complaint anymore. It was an investigation. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," she said, forcing a smile that didn't quite form. "His system is clearly misinterpreting signals. Technology does that sometimes." I let out a quiet breath. "No," I said evenly. "Good systems don't." Her eyes snapped toward me, sharp, desperate. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I do," I replied. "That's the problem." Another knock at the door. This one heavier. More presence behind it. The second officer moved to answer, opening it to reveal two more officers stepping inside. Their expressions were neutral, but alert. "Situation?" one of them asked. The first officer gestured toward my screen. "Possible unauthorized network activity traced to a secondary residence." The new officer stepped closer, scanning the data. And just like that, Karen took a small step backward. Instinct. Like her body already knew something her mind was still trying to deny. "This is insane," she said again, but quieter this time. "You can't just accuse someone based on lines on a screen." The officer didn't look up. "It's not just lines, ma'am. It's patterns. Consistent ones." She shook her head. "I don't run anything like that. I wouldn't even know how." I crossed my arms. "That may be true," I said, "but something in your house does." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. The lead officer straightened, turning fully toward her now. "Ma'am, we're going to need to ask, do you have any additional network equipment in your home? Routers, boosters, external devices?" Karen hesitated. "Just for a second." But that second was enough. "Just standard stuff," she said. "Whatever the cable company installed." "Nothing else?" "No." Her voice cracked slightly on that last word.